Hello, I'm John Sarnoff. I'm one of the pediatricians here at Premier Pediatrics. And today I am joined by Mandi White-Ajmani, who is I think the founder, founder and head of Small Brooklyn Psychology, a very good friend to our practice and a group that we've worked with for a long time. Today I'm so glad you could be with us because we've a topic we haven't talked about much, but it's on a lot of people's minds.
Very timely.
It's very timely. There's a lot of kids, our older kids, who some of whom we've seen since birth are heading off to college.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But we just want to have a conversation about how it affects the various people in a family unit. The transition of a sibling off to college, talking about the parents, talking about the kids, talking about siblings, and kind of the whole family as a whole. So
Yeah.
I know it's a big topic, but I was hoping you could shed some light and give us some pearls.
It's a big milestone for sure, and everybody is affected. And I think so much leading up to it is all about the logistics of the college tours and the applications and the admissions and the financial aid. And then you start to move into the roommate selection and the buying for the dorm room and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, in that lead up, sometimes the emotions get missed. I know that my son is starting his senior year, so I'm going to be doing this all pretty soon. And I find myself getting emotional about it, just thinking about it. It's still a year away. So everybody is going through their emotions.
And just for full disclosure, I'm going through this right now. So, yeah.
I'm with you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
So yes, it's a big emotional deal. So for the family, also obviously for the child who's making a big transition out of the house for the first time, and it's something that they've been hearing about for years, right? This is the big next step, and this is such an important step for you, and there's a lot of emotion, but also anxiety riding on it.
Yeah. How, in terms of, so for the child first leaving home, is there, just as a parent, do you have any pointers of just how to maybe prepare them for that transition?
So I think the biggest thing that's really important for these seniors or incoming freshmen to realize is that it's not a one and done, you get there and then you're perfect and everything is fantastic, right? It's actually kind of a curve of, this is the best thing ever, this is the worst thing ever, I'm so homesick, why am I here, everybody is smarter than me. All right, I'm starting to get a little bit better, oh God, I can't sleep, I hate the food. Oh, you know, I'm starting to make some friends. Like it's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to be ready for that. That can be disconcerting for kids who are expecting it to be the best thing ever when they get there. And then as soon as they hit that first trough, or maybe they go back up again and think, okay, things are great, but then they hit another trough. It's just important to know that that is very normal and to expect it and to not immediately think, I'm not cut out for this, it's never gonna get better, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great advice. And to talk about it beforehand.
Yeah.
Maybe your own personal experience is probably helpful in that regard.
Absolutely. And so the best thing that kids can do when they get to college is expect that up and down, know how to reach out for help and to whom, so whether it's parents and friends back home, but also support staff and counseling at school, know what exists there when you need it. Also know how to dive in and start making your friend base there and finding your people. Get into clubs, activities right away. Those are the places where you're really going to meet people like you. And so knowing what you might be interested in ahead of time can give you a sense of what to do when you get there. So that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. How did, for a parent who's trying to, and I can speak to this, you're trying to sort between protecting your child for 18 years and trying to respect their independence as just, how do you walk that line?
Oh, it's so hard, and I'm gonna have a hard time with it too, for sure. You know, as I think what you just said was perfectly, you said that very well. Parents are gonna have a really hard time walking that line and knowing kind of at what point to back off. But I think the underlying message, as much as possible, is to back off, not neglect, not withdraw or anything like that, but rather let kids know that they have your confidence that they can solve problems for themselves. And start giving them those messages now. Give them some pointers ahead of time about logistical sorts of things like managing a bank account and how to do laundry if they've never done that before, and what their social security number is, that kind of thing. But also walk them through some other problems that they might encounter and let them know that there will be problems. They won't necessarily be these or any of the ones that you might expect. But that they have the tools and the smarts and the resources around them to solve the problems for themselves, and they can do this. And then you have to step back and let them do it, even when it's hard for them. And we as parents really hate seeing our kids in distress, right? And the first thing, I know my first thing is always, well, let me solve this problem for you. But that is not going to teach them how to do that for themselves. Kids who feel that they don't have the self-reliance to be able to solve these problems for themselves are the ones that are most fragile when problems do come up, and the ones who are most anxious, even when there are no problems. They just don't feel comfortable to be able to do it. But the more that you can tell them that they can solve the problems in the moment, they don't have to plan for every eventuality, they don't have to think through every worst case scenario, and they don't have to immediately run to you for help. They are actually the best adjusted. So as a parent, the more that you can step back, and even things from like location tracking, turn that off. Wait for them to call you. When they do call you with problems, ask them, is this something that you want advice on, or you just want to vent and I'll listen?
It's so funny because as a parent, I'm listening and thinking,
Yeah.
But everything you're saying sounds right, and it sounds like an extension of how we parent teens. But I mean, as we parent the high school students, but I think in your mind you just constantly are racing to worse scenarios. So it's important to, I guess, it's important to take a step back from that and realize it's not, like you said, it's not a one-time. Everything is going to go wrong. It's going to be peaks and troughs for the parent as well.
That's a really good point too.
And then before I get to the sibling, this could be free therapy. But how about because there's a level of grieving, because it truly is a different stage. I don't know if that's a fair question to ask, but as a parent, just watching your child move to this really independent stage, any advice for parents going through that?
For parents, and then also as a segue to the sibling piece too, I think everybody's going to go through their grieving process, including the kid who is off having the best time of their lives in school. It is a different life. It's a totally different new normal to get used to, and you're going to miss aspects of what life used to be. As much as you might be so thrilled and happy and excited for your kid who's going off on this new adventure, you have to get used to what that new normal is going to look like, and it's okay to have those feelings. You know, and especially so like a younger sibling who might be grieving the loss of, that life and having their older sibling around. It is okay for you guys to go through that process together. To be sad, to allow them to be sad. You don't have to distract yourself from it. You don't have to, try and do the thing where you're like, but there's so many positives, So you can both be sad together, and you can also move on to the next steps. You can do things without the kid and not feel guilty about it. You can find new traditions to do with the family that you still have, even if you're by yourself. Like you can find new things that now you couldn't do when you had a child at home.
It's such a wonderful point though, that it's okay to be sad. I think that's such a great point.
I think about Inside Out a lot, and sadness kind of working her magic with her emotions and being like, it's okay to be sad, whereas joy is like, let's feel better, let me tickle you out of it. And like, no, it's okay to be sad, and then you feel better afterwards. Obviously, if you get to the place where it's continuing on longer and you can't get past the sadness, then that's a time to maybe seek some help. And therapists are really great for helping people to work through that, but sadness is normal.
And it's interesting because I think for a parent and a child going off to school, there's a natural continuum because you're going to be talking about problems, you're going to be talking about great things that have happened, but you're going to be on the phone with some frequency. The sibling relationship might be a little bit different. So I'm trying to think of specific to the sibling, how you one, create a family structured home that feels like a new normal and feels okay, and how you kind of help kids to, I mean, probably they could do this on their own. It goes back to the idea of independence. They're kind of an independent unit that you have to let grow, but how to help kids maintain their relationship even though they're not living under the same roof.
Yeah. I think phone calls and Zoom calls and texting, I think all those things are really important.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes younger kids especially who like have a harder time like getting conversations started,
Mm-hmm.
like they need a little nudge.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can give them some like conversation starters, or maybe you can tell the kid at college, hey, your little, you know, brother or sister is having some trouble with this. Like maybe you can help them by telling them more about what's going on at school.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times just hearing the little things about somebody's day, like what they had for breakfast and like what they wore to class,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, who was falling asleep next to them in class, like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff can help to keep that intimacy and that feeling that you're still involved in their lives, right? I think that that's important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are some younger siblings who don't feel like they know how to do that, so it's just a little bit of nudging from you and from the older sibling would be good. And then, you know, you can do some special things together for the older sibling, maybe like sending a care package. Like I think that's a really
great idea.
cute idea.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like you said, like having the younger child to say, what are some things that you would like to do now that the older sibling is out of the house? Maybe like, you know, the younger sibling likes a different kind of movie and could never get their vote in because the older sibling always got the bigger say. Like now we've got more freedom to be able to pick the movie on movie night, or like the restaurant that you go to. What are some shows that you're going to watch as a family together now that you're not watching with the older sibling, but you know, you can have these new traditions together.
Yeah, it's also probably a sense of letting it settle, let the new norm settle, as opposed to trying to
don't
project
rush
it on
into it. Yeah, exactly, and let it kind of evolve.
Yeah,
Right.
try to assume what they're thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel better. So that's good.
Good, I'm glad. I'll try to remind myself of all of this next year when I get into
We'll watch
it.
this next year. Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.